Got a little bit of an echo there.
That's okay. Just trying to trip us up here as we're starting a show, Cody. I like it. Keep us on edge, keep us on point, keep us ready to roll. We've got Cody, we've got Greg, we've got Slavic, and we've got Tim. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, Cody.
Absolutely fantastic. Or actually, no, I'll take this line that Matt uses. Well, I'm doing better than GameStop is out there.
It's true. That poor company might go bankrupt. They're down big again today. We're going to break down all the charts, all the action in the market here today. Cody, are you driving?
Yes, I am going to drive. Give me 2 seconds.
You just wanted to bring the four panelists up because we're also.
That's what it was.
I like it. Brighten everybody's day out there, Slavic. How's your trading going this morning, Slavic? I know you're a day trader. You do a lot of stuff with that.
Yeah, I did pretty awesome. I traded this Roku. I was early in Square, then I picked on Apple twice to the upside, to the downside. It was a pretty green day today.
Mm-hmm. And Greg, you're my covered call guy. When the market goes crazy like this and it's up and down and back and forth, you kind of don't care, do you? As long as it doesn't, go crazy.
Not at all. It just means I start using some more in the money covered calls and a little more defense. That's all.
Yeah. If you have a system, you will profit. That's the way the markets work. S&P 500 is up here 0.3%, about 8 points, guys. We've had some intraday volatility. There's some interesting action. Let's start with just the S&P itself and stay right on this chart, if you would, Cody. You've got falling moving averages in the short-term ones, the 9, the 20s kind of rolling over, as well as that 50 and 200 are kind of now neutral. Greg, we've had 3 green candles coming back up Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Now we've got a light range candle. How do you read the chart here?
This is a bear rally to me. You can see that it happened probably about 10 sessions, 12 sessions ago.
Mm-hmm.
That first drop had 9 or 10 bars down. We got 3 up, and this has had 11 down, and now this is our 3rd up, and it looks like an upside down hammer right at this point in time. And this is fully what I've been expecting. I was playing the short side for basically for 2 weeks now, and I fully expected some kind of rally. I didn't really expect the size of yesterday's candle. That was a little bit much, and it was on lighter volume. But I do believe that this is just a bull trap, if anything else.
Mm-hmm. Slavic, I think that
I like that.
Like that. Bull trap. Cody, have you ever heard of that, bull trap?
No, that's new to me. A bull trap. I like it.
Yeah. Pulling the bullish traders in on optimism that everything's going to recover, and then boom, it does pivot and change. Slavic, you're usually net cash by the end of the day, and you prefer day trading for many different reasons. But one thing in a market like this that's just going up, up, up 3 candles in a row, are you aware of the overhead resistance that's developing there and how this whole pattern plays out?
Yes, I am aware. I talked to the traders that follow me in my day trading room that we're nearing that downward channel resistance, and a real bull trap would be if this was the hangman and followed by the tapping tail tomorrow and then triggered short. That's when everybody that went long would be getting hosed, in my opinion.
Yeah. Cody, where you got support and resistance on the S&P here? I know 2,800 was such a key level. We then broke below it. We're now coming back up into these moving averages like I talked about. But what's interesting about the price action, guys, 2,800 was a level that I was paying attention to. And right now here today, so far, we still got 3.5 hours till the bell, though. We are above that 2,800 mark. Cody, where's your support and resistance lines?
So I like to use this volume profile to help me find my exact numbers, because there's always the rough ranges. The 2,800 is just very easy, large number to look at. But when you look here at the volume profile, you can actually see that it's more of the zone between 28 and probably about 2750 or so, which is right where the 200 is sitting. So I would say right at that 200 is my main support level right now, and it's just flirting with it.
Yeah, definitely flirting with it back and forth. There's no doubt about it. And pull this back to a weekly chart. Let's get a couple of time frames on this thing because we're talking about context here. By the way, more stuff on tariffs and interest rates, and we'll get into all the news headlines and all those kind of things. But the chart is king and price action is king. Here we are on a pullback, guys. And now we're going into the summertime. May was a pretty rough month. In fact, 4 weeks, pretty much week over week, we were down, 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 down. Now we're heading into June. Let's start with Greg here. Greg, summertime trading for you. What have you seen in your career? What do you kind of expect? What do you look for in the summer?
Well, it's clear that all the hedge funds and all the big institutional traders, they got to take their time off to go to the Hamptons. So volatility typically and volume do fall off a little bit, and you have to change your style of trading just a little bit because of that. The sell in May go away thing, I've kind of looked at the data. I don't know. I think it's more of just a saying and not really an exponential fact or a math fact anyway. But it definitely does slow down in my opinion. But it's still there's the things that I trade are so liquid that it really doesn't affect it that much.
Mm-hmm.
It's really how I see it.
I
It's
see.
more of a sell in June, but sell in June and go away doesn't rhyme. So
Sell in June, go for something. I don't know. Swim. I don't know. That doesn't rhyme either, though, Cody. I can't go golfing. We don't need to rhyme to go golfing and have an excuse for it. Slavic, when you're day trading, Slavic, and when you're approaching markets in the summertime in your career, what have you seen about the summer and markets like this that are different from other market conditions?
Well, I got my own indicator to determine that the volume is drying up. I live in one of those towns in New Jersey, right on the water. And once I see Maseratis, Lamborghinis, and McLarens driving the streets, that means that we might be slowing down. I don't really care because whatever I trade is so liquid, like Greg said, that it doesn't matter. And whatever gaps, it's usually higher than expected or a higher than average volume. So I trade just the same way as I trade every day.
Yeah, for sure. And, in the summertime, it does affect some systems. There's no doubt about it. I think Coach Noah said the summer is for theta, but if you're a day trader, who cares? I mean, you're going to approach the market action as it's developing. And actually, the wild back and forth is kind of what you want. Go down to an intraday chart, if you would here quick, Cody, and 5, 15, 30, doesn't matter to me, or even an hourly chart. The opening price here today, we did open a little bit up and then we backfilled here a Slavic. When you see price action that is stuck in the mud on the intraday, by the time we get to 1240 on the East Coast, I mean, I know you're usually kind of wrapping up your day. What are you seeing here on the intraday?
I like this. That's why I'm saying like intraday, if that trend line, that channel resistance, if that breaks, we might see some upward momentum. So that's what I would be looking for, some longs maybe into the end of the day.
Yeah, Greg, do you tend to place more trades in the morning, at the open, midday, at the bell? I mean, does it matter to you? You kind of approach it all the same. How's your take on that?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's all about opportunity. So I spent the morning, I got a bunch of double diagonals on. So I spent the morning rolling those just because we did get this little pop here, which helped those out. But it depends on the setup, and it depends on when it hits my entry targets for a lot of my trades. When I'm day trading like Slavic there, I got to see the pattern. And so it doesn't matter. Sometimes it comes early in the morning. Sometimes it comes late in the afternoon. The only time that it doesn't really come is over lunchtime, to be honest with you. These trading guys like to take long lunches sometimes. And that's really the only time that I don't see a lot of entries. So.
As I look at all of this across the market here, the S&P is up 0.21%, 6 points, not a lot going on. Let's run through some of the top gainers and losers. And let's start actually with CRM, if you would, Cody, and bring that one up. We talked about it yesterday, how, there was going to be an earnings report on this one. CRM is an interesting company. Bring this chart, if you would. And earnings reaction here, it did gap up back into a range, neutral. It's one of my favorite companies, and Mark Benioff is one of my favorite CEOs and leaders out there in Silicon Valley. But we are now stuck in a range. This has been a volatile space, application software. I like a lot of the companies in this area, and no doubt about that. Slavic, you trade Salesforce at all?
No, I didn't. I missed it. I was thinking bearish because they're looking to the left. From day trading perspective, that 160 could act as resistance, and I didn't get a clear signal here off the open. It was chopping for first 30 minutes back and forth within the range, so I stopped watching it.
Yeah, chop kind of leads to me to do a volatility crush type of play. I know, Slavic, you're more of a delta trader that plays directionally, so you're looking for up or down movement. Greg, you're an option trader, and I don't know if you use the earnings season at all for you to get into some option trades. When you see something gapping out neutral, I mean, things come to mind like short strangle, iron condor, even some credit spreads potentially, or naked options. Do you do any post-earnings stuff, Greg? Is it in your playbook?
Yeah, there's really nothing I won't trade. I got to say I haven't been as active in this past earnings season as I normally am, but yeah, I love the short strangles. I love the double diagonals even through earnings. It's really what I see. So like lately, my focus has been on Facebook. Facebook has just been getting crushed, and so I've been playing that short pretty hard recently, and that's kind of been my focus. It's had some breakdowns, some serious breakdowns on levels here, and I realized it gapped up on earnings there, but ever since then it's just been getting crushed. So I don't always focus on the earnings play. I focus on what I think I can make money on, and this has really been my focus recently.
In the chat, and welcome out, Halftime Crew. It's always good to be here. Tim, Greg, Slavic, and Cody got you on a Wednesday, midweek here, hump day, I guess. I know that I always had that phrase wrong. I guess it's just the middle of the week you're getting over the hump, Greg. I always thought it was some veiled attempt at a sexual thing. I didn't know. I didn't believe me. I mean, the old man who did not have all the hip language down, but it is happy hump day. And if you're watching our show here today, give us a quick like and a share. Get the word out there. We always love coming in here. And by the way, in the comments, we're kind of talking about different systems. Put in the words Delta, Theta, and Vega. And there's different ways to trade. If you want to play Facebook short, that's a delta trade. If you want to catch Roku and go long, that's a delta trade. Post volatility trading, that's Vega trading, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. And like we were talking about earlier, those covered calls, Theta, Theta, Theta. There's so many different ways to make money in markets, guys. It's pretty incredible the opportunities we have. Back on the S&P 500 stocks here for just a minute. Tiffany's, I want you to bring this stock up. And Coach Emily, I saw your post on Facebook and I loved it. And thanks for sharing all that.
What's Tiffany's signal?
TIF.
TIF. There we go.
Gap up failed. Coach Gino brought this one up, and Coach Emily was talking about it. I mean, this is the kind of thing that if you're watching the halftime report every day, we had some pressure in this stock. It gapped out to 94, Slavic overhead resistance. It brought that stock back down. You've now had a full gap fill. Slavic, talk about the price action here and what is happening within those candlesticks to create that price action.
Well, first of all, we had a gap into resistance, like you mentioned. And the gap fill. Like I said to everybody a bunch of times, I like to pay attention to expected move. Tiffany, it was yesterday. I knew it opened within the expected move as far as the market maker priced it out, and it was a given. Trigger below the low of yesterday's candle, gap fill, went a little over, and the trade is over if you're a day trader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think it is a closed trade at this point. I mean, the easy price action was to backfill into what you were talking about, which is the old gap point. And you can see it on the intraday here, Cody. We ran up on earnings, then it failed. You had a failure at support. Then the opening price here today brought it all the way back down. Kind of a quick swing trade, there's no doubt, but it did grab my eye. We'll be talking more about brick and mortar retail as we go through the day. And actually, I might as well go on to the one you were talking about earlier, Cody, and that's GameStop. These brick and mortar stocks have just been hit hard. They've been under pressure. There have been the notable exceptions like the Targets that have been holding up and doing really well. GameStop down another 38% here today, $4.80. I mean, Greg, I don't know the last time you went into a GameStop, but they're not doing well. They're not doing well at all. What can you say about a company that's under this much pressure, Greg?
Giving me flashbacks of Blockbuster, man. They just they just haven't kept up with the times, and they've become a dinosaur, and they're being treated as such, right? So, Blockbuster did a lot of this same thing. It just down. There were people coming in and trying to hunt for bargains, and those people were punished heavily for that. I think GameStop's just a repeat of that. How can you compete with the online games and all that kind of stuff? It's just their business model hasn't changed as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've never been in a GameStop. I've seen them before, but I've never been in one.
I've been in a couple. Yeah. I mean,
so my thought was even when GameStop was at the top of its, like, it was the place you went to get any game to play.
Okay.
Everybody always hated the fact that after you play that game that you just paid $65 for, they'll buy it back from you for like $2.
Yeah.
And
that sounds
now,
about right.
you know, and now if you need a game, you can buy it at your home, downloaded, half the price, and you never even have to get off your couch.
Yeah.
You finish a game and be like, all right, I'm ready for my next one. And then just start downloading the next game. You never even have to move, never have to deal with people. It's a gamer's trading.
I guess I'm a little old school. I have a stand-up arcade machine in my basement, so I guess I
Dude,
really
that
never.
sounds fun.
Maybe I'm the dinosaur that I'm talking about, but yeah, I'm old school like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. Not really into the whatever the latest
I got to tell you,
Call of Duty or whatever the hell it is today.
I'm
Fortnite,
like, listen.
whatever.
I mean,
So,
games are games. They're fun. But you just made me think last week I was in San Antonio. And of all places, me and my kids, we found a Fuddruckers. You ever been in one of these, Greg? You know what Fuddruckers is?
Dave and Buster's similar, yeah.
Yeah. Just great burgers. And they had a Miss Pac-Man there. And I played Miss Pac-Man for probably a half an hour. And I got all nostalgic about it. I definitely need to get a Miss Pac-Man, put one in my house. There's no doubt about it. Maybe GameStop should go into the business of selling old, retro, refurbished machines because they're not competing in the space they're in right now. They're not doing well. Go back to the daily chart if you would for a minute, Cody. And Slavic, when you see a $5 stock that's just getting destroyed, I mean, how do you even handle this? Do you just throw it off your watch list and don't touch it?
Yeah, do not touch. I have a rule over $20 per share to even get interested. Sometimes 18, 19, when I see a nice setup, I will get in. And speaking of gaming industry, like I love games on my iPhone. I'm addicted. And let me tell you, those are making my bathroom breaks the longest in the history.
Oh, I love traders.
You know, honestly, if you ever end up in the restroom these days without your phone, you sit there like, wait, what did I ever do before phones?
We're moving on.
It was called War and Peace.
I'm putting a stop loss on that. Oh, c'est la vie. All right, guys. The markets have a lot of interesting price action. I got to tell you, right at the top of all the losers on the S&P 500 here today are all the energy stocks. Give a quick rapid fire through some of these. We're going to talk oil here in just a minute, but just look at the companies. When oil's under pressure, companies get under pressure. SWN, real quick, Cody, down 5.9%, breaking support. Southwestern Energy. Look at XEC, Cimarex, down 4.5%. There's a bull and bear market somewhere all the time. Diamond Offshore, DO. The FANG, Diamondback Energy, FANG, down 3.75%.
All of these are breakdowns.
Wow.
Look at all these
Major
breakdowns,
M.
guys.
Look at
that one.
That beautiful M there.
Yeah, and then even it's going to make a Canadian cry here, but even Freeport
I like that support at 100 that broke. Wait,
copper and gold. FCX, real quick, Cody.
FCX.
Greg, when the commodity stocks are down, it has to hurt you up there in dear old Canada. Number one, area of their economy is going to be commodities, and mining and oil and all that kind of stuff is very big. What's your read on the commodity market right now?
Yeah, we're taking it on the chin for a lot of different things. The softs are starting to make a little bit of a reversal, which is nice to see because there's been a real beat down in that for a while. Gold and silver making a heck of a comeback. It looked like they were on the mat 2 weeks ago, and then oil is unpredictable as we've seen. So yeah, I like where gold's at. If it can break that 1350 level, it's got some room to run. Silver's still lagging behind a little bit, which is fine, but yeah, this is a surprise as far as I'm concerned.
I will say though that hammer candle on gold doesn't look too nice right now.
No, not right now, but this is all this is all tying into fear too, right? So if the markets do start to turn around to the downside again, you're going to see a little bit of this, and even the run into Bitcoin has a lot to do with that. That worry, I guess. So.
Sure. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Slavic, what about you? Commodities market in general, all these energy stocks are down. They're under pressure. They've been sold. Mining stocks, metals, all of them. What's your read on the commodity market right now?
Well, the gold is overdone, a little overcooked here to the upside. I would expect at least a base. Well, the stopping tail might suggest. Well, the day isn't over. That's first of all. So we might fill that topping tail. Speaking of oil, I don't know if you guys noticed, but intraday, for the first time in like forever, oil moved the market. Spider moved with oil today. You know that oil news got downgraded from red on Forex Factory to yellow, least important news, right? For US dollar. And for the first time in forever, because I always try to watch oil price action, because sometimes nice reversals happens, and if I'm watching a position to enter, that helps. For the first time in years, I would say, oil moved with the market moved with the oil to the downside for quite some time at 10:30, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a market mover at times. It doesn't always impact the S&P directly point for point, but obviously it's the news of the day right now. And I think the S&P is moving on that oil news because all these companies are under pressure. There's no doubt about it. And you're right. That economic report on Wednesdays, it used to be a big deal. I remember trading crude oil 5-8 years ago, and it was the biggest thing you'd look at every week. And now markets don't seem to care as much. But here today on the intraday, we are seeing movement off of some of the data. Other charts, we'll come back to commodities here in a minute. But other charts that are showing me real interesting action. Look at Win Casinos, if you would here, Cody. Traders tell me they can't find bearish trades. Well, go to the, bird dog list, go to the scouting reports, go into the halftime report. I'm looking at pressure across some of these areas. Now, that's only one green candle, Slavic. Yeah, but that is a nice red pivot into a bear zone. Do you wait for it to kind of price appreciate a little bit higher? Do you wait for better candles? What would be your read on a situation like Win that is rolled over and reversed?
I would take into consideration that resistance, overhead resistance. 1 second, what is it? Help me out here. 115, right? 115.
About 115.
And I would look, since my time frame is so short, as you guys know, I would look intraday into the stock for potential aggressive entry. These are the low risk entries, like 30 minutes, even 15 minutes. Wait for some moving averages to cross, and I'll be in it.
And by the way, I'm looking across many of these different companies. A lot of them are brick and mortar retail, energy. Like Frank says in the chat, energy has been a fun place for the bears lately. And I'm going to throw this question out there to everybody out there watching a halftime report. And by the way, if you are watching right now and you're new to our channel, always click subscribe and click on the bell so you're aware when we do go live. And if you are a veteran of our community, just give us a quick thumbs up. We always appreciate you guys helping us get the word out. What area of the market are you most bearish out there, guys? Brick and mortar retail, energy, another area of the market, could be chemicals, could be whatever it might be. What area of the market, a sector or an industry, have you seen the most bearishness in your charts, in your watch list, and what you're seeing out there in the market? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And I'm looking still, there's a lot of bear candidates on the S&P here today. Take a look at Mosaic. Agricultural chemicals. It used to be, Greg, I remember when I started trading, some of these chemical companies were some of the hottest in the marketplace, and they have been under real pressure for about a year now. You look at that deep downtrend on Mosaic, bear retracement pivot candlestick after a dividend. What's your read here, Greg?
Yeah, this is just waiting for another turn down. Maybe slight little bit more up there. Maybe the 23. If that red candle doesn't keep going down. Yeah, Mosaic. These companies used to be really solid dividend payers as well, and in recent years they've started to struggle from that perspective, and I think that has a lot to do with this bearishness. So. There's a lot of court cases going on with some of this stuff as well, so that can turn it for sure. Where I see this is just another opportunity to go low on this thing.
Yeah, and it's always an interesting day when the number one day on the upside, switching to the bull side of the S&P here, is going to be a soup company, Campbell's Soup, CPB, up 9.1%. I cannot remember the last time I opened up a can. Well, I don't know. I use Campbell's Soup in my casseroles and stuff. Maybe I use it more than I think, but not exactly a popular product for me in my house. But it is breaking out and running here. Nice little breakout. Probably a snooze fest here. We're not talking soup companies here today. American Airlines is rallying. AAL. Give me a quick look at that one. But a rally like this is just into old support. In fact, this is a really, really classical technical pattern, old support, new resistance. And, guys, as I look at that chart, there's a couple of things that grab my eye. Number one is the clarity of the zone, but the lack of clarity in the exact pricing points. And Cody, back that out just a few pricing points. A couple of minus signs. If you look at the tails back in December and January, it did go down below this. And even it didn't hit an exact location here. Greg, how do you read support resistance type zones like this? I mean, we're near it, but who knows where that decimal point is?
Yeah, you know what? I almost eliminate that. One of my mentors used to say that support and resistance is found with a butcher knife, not a scalpel. So for me, I look at that, and I have a thing where I'm always looking at the round numbers. So I see that 30 level there, and that's to me is where the resistance, support, and resistance would be. And then I'll even chop it in half. Sometimes you'll get to the 30, 50, those kind of things. But people like round numbers. It's ingrained in us, and so really, I don't get too concerned about where the tails are. If it's close one way or the other, then I just go right to the dollar amount.
Interesting. Let's keep moving on through charts. MSCI breakout. Let's talk some bullish breakouts here. MSCI S&P 500 component up 3.07%, breaking into a new high. Slavic, you're a momentum trader. I've seen you trading enough. I've been around you enough to know that. That little flag breakout there, those are signals that you watch for, yes?
Yes, I do. It opened within that resistance, so I would watch for 127 extension for potential as far as Fibonacci's. I know, I'm sorry.
Do not.
127 extension. So we might be right in off of the daily, Cody. All
right, seriously, that's a good fib. It's getting drawn right now.
So 127 and then 161 from top here to the bottom. To the bottom, the nearest bottom here. Yeah.
Right there?
No, forward in time. I use Fibonacci's a little different.
You use them to actually target.
Yeah, I use it for the target. So it would be right here on the daily, the 127 extension, then 16. And once we clear that 127 and continue, I'll be interested because we did not clearly gap over this resistance zone on the daily. So we might even come back in if market gives that thing on the daily might be back in that resistance. So
yeah, Slavic, I'll tell you this. You are more than welcome to do a deep dive on Fibonacci extensions when you teach Mind of a Trader later in the month. I'm not doing it in the halftime report. I am in too good of a mood to get pulled in that.
But Tim, I did notice that
witchcraft.
that tweet that I was like, hey, this fib looks really good on the market. You never even responded to that on Twitter. Was that a purpose ignoring?
Oh, me? Yeah. No, I liked it. You were right.
No, I'm talking about Tim. I actually tagged Tim on the post. I said, hey, Tim.
Yeah. Moving on. We got some good breakouts going on here. UAA Under Armour. Go back to the daily charts here for a minute, Cody, and let's take a peek.
For me, it's fun.
No, I do. Listen, I'll go look for that on Twitter, Cody, and give you a quick like and make you feel a little bit better out there in Hawaii. I know that your emotions can get pulled into if you don't get enough likes on your social media, Greg. These kids.
Let me tell you, I'm like, no.
What's Twitter? What's Twitter again? I know what the symbol is. I don't know what the platform is.
I only got on Twitter because of working with Tackle Trading. I was never even on Twitter.
Yeah. No, listen, I didn't get active on Twitter until we started to try to start promoting it and pushing it. And I do like Twitter for trading stuff. It can get you pulled into stuff like arguments on politics, like any social media, but you got to have discretion. UAA, give me the double A on this one. There's two symbols. Instead of the C shares, give me the A shares if you would. And Under Armour, you'll notice a breakout here. Beautiful actual, breakout. Breakout was yesterday, taken off, showing me a lot more strength here today as well. NASDAQ took off NDAQ. Take a look at some of these charts that are showing me strength across the marketplace. The brokers and the exchange firms like the CME Group and the NASDAQ and ICE, they've all actually been in pretty good little movements to the upside.
Oh, my God.
Their strength, yeah. CME broke out. We talked about this about a month ago. And it's where one thing that is happening in the market right now, guys, I'm seeing specific industries do well and specific industries do very poorly. And that's why I say it's a stock picker's market. I know the whole market has been coming down here recently, with all the risk in the trade war, but there's still areas that are bullish. Greg, what have you been targeting to the upside?
Some of my dividend payers, actually, AFLAC, AFL, has been taking off nicely, even with the beat down that the market's been taking. It's on a tear. Enbridge was doing good until it got cracked the other day, but it was high basin, kind of consolidating for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of the ones that I typically watch. I got a long list of dividend pairs that I really like, and I've just been kind of picking and choosing through those lately.
Mm-hmm. Slavic, what about you? What areas of the market are you seeing more bullish than bearish?
Whatever gaps in the morning. I like literally. I pay attention on very short time frames. Like this Roku was a nice swing. It was off of the day trading find. Like actually, all of my picks, like this Campbell, I'm gonna be paying attention to a long trade because it's breaking again. It's breaking its expected move to the upside,
Mm-hmm.
and on the momentum, once we get a pullback, 1 day pullback, 2 days pullback, I'll be interested to get in. Roku hit its target. I don't know if it got to the scouting report, but yeah, 95 was our first target, and 100 was the next target, right? A couple weeks ago, worked out perfectly. So yeah, I just don't pay attention to the news. I don't pay attention to what's going on globally. I mean, I'm aware, but it does not affect my trading in any way, shape, or form.
Play the charts.
I wake up, see the chart, and I trade it if it fits my trading plan.
I love it. And then you also check down by the docks to see how many Maseratis are parked at the fishing station, right?
There you go.
I love that Slavic indicator. We need to get like a measurement on that indicator. You take a picture, you put it on Twitter every day. We'll see how many of those are sitting out there, and that might be the time to actually short the market. For me, the brokers have been great. Anything that's not dependent on trade war stuff. I mean, it really comes down to the news cycles and what is going on, right? Companies and industries and areas that are sensitive to the global economy, like energy and oil, they've been weak. And brick and mortar has been weak because they're not doing well. But there are some areas like the brokers that have been hot, and Roku was also one of those stocks that was really, really hot as well. Let's keep moving through. Go on to the Dow, if you would here, Cody, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Always love breaking these markets down one at a time. No discernible difference, in my opinion, from the S&P and the Dow on the pattern. Do you guys see anything different on the big picture here?
No, just the numbers on the right-hand side. That's all.
Yeah, the numbers are different, but the picture looks the same. Price action on the major indexes is moving in line together. But as I look across the Dow, many companies that are going to grab my attention. Number one, we got to talk Apple Computer again, and it's an interesting candle here, guys. It had a lot of upward movement, caught some of that overnight action on the gapping here, Slavic, and you're a price action guy. It hit right into some falling moving averages and then came right back down intraday. Slavic, I'm going to start with you. What's your read on Apple?
Well, I called 932 in 1 second. I called Apple short, and there was a nice leg moving down. You take the profit. I didn't trade it. I missed it. Then there was another leg down off of the 2-minute chart, and about halfway, 618 again, 618 retracement. If you look at the gap, you have to treat it as a green candle. That's how I treat gaps, to the upside and to the downside as a red candle. So if you put the fib on the gap intraday, it correlated with that 618 retracement, nice double bottom, and I picked the leg up towards the 182.50 because I measured the first retracement, and I traded based on the first leg. The distance I got out a little bit too early, dollar early. And then I traded the double bottom to the downside again for smaller profit because the move was smaller.
Yeah. Backfilling on the gap now, by the time we get to this point of the day, it is settling in here. Back on the daily chart here for a minute, if you would, Cody, and let's talk big picture as well, Greg. Apple Computer is such an important company for the marketplace at large. It's no longer the biggest company in the S&P 500 or the Dow. Microsoft has that ring by a long shot, by the way, about $100 billion in market cap. Greg, to me, this is a bear retracement. That gap is looking like it's going to be fighting into all kinds of zones here. How do you approach a situation like this?
Yeah, I'm looking for the same thing. This looks a lot to me like the S&P 500 right now. You know, big push down, a little bit of a rally up, big push down, little rally up, and now we're just waiting for the turn. So what I'm looking for is be an intraday signal, but waiting for the turn at the top, and then going below. I like below that 180 as well. You know, if you were doing a swing trade or something, you break below that 180 again. I think she's got some room to run down. Obviously, we had that $10 range between 170 180. I think it gets back down to 170 pretty quickly.
Yeah, interesting. You know, and we were talking about this in the halftime report yesterday. Gino talked about resistance around that 185 mark. Slavic, you talked about it as well. The old pivot points that we're holding, everybody was kind of waiting for that to gap fill and back in. And now here we are, Greg. Could be interesting to watch if we get price selling over the week as we head into the rest of the week. Other companies on the Dow grabbing my attention. Well, American Express, kind of a triple top developing up here. It needs to break out. I don't really see anything. I'm seeing Exxon and Chevron that are showing me bearish retracement stuff. A lot of the financials are in neutral. Look at IBM. Here's a chart. Here's one to kind of break down. And we've talked about this one. We've had it on the bird dog list. And if you guys are a pro member at Tackle Trading, just type in the words pro member and let me know if you're using those scouting reports and put it in the chat here. We talked about IBM in our ops report a couple of weeks ago, and it sold off. It was weak. We're now below all moving averages, and we're into a new pivot point. We hit a lower pivot low, and now we're developing a lower pivot high here. Guys, this company's been under pressure for a couple of months. Greg, what's your take on the chart?
Yeah, so nice, there's a minor downtrend there, and it's channeling beautifully. If you draw some channel lines on that, it's playing to perfection almost. I would expect that we're gonna head back down to the bottom of that channel resistance, which would be right around the 125 mark there. You know, it's you know, other than actually being in a textbook, it's almost textbook, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Slavic, that's a pretty textbook down channel, kind of a rough candle if you're looking for an entry for a swing trade over time. What's your read on the chart itself?
Yeah, I see. And speaking of support and resistance, like I listened to a guy, I was pretty wise, 30 some odd years in the markets. He says, treat the support and resistance as the top and the bottom of the mattress. Like you can poke to the upside, you can poke to the downside, you could sit on it, and it's still, you know, it's not the fixed number. So around 135. Again, if we will get a bull trap in this market, maybe this week, I would watch for another candle above this red one, 135, then failure, and then or intraday, just like I talked about the other stack that you asked me about. There was definitely, if you were looking to short into this resistance and you wanted to be early, stop 136, give or take, and you'd be already in based on some moving average crossovers on 15-minute, 30-minute charts going to the downside.
Now, there are two, count them, two very, very good analogies. We're going to have an analogy contest here today on how to describe support resistance. The top and bottom of a mattress have a little flex. And then, Greg, I think you said it's not a scalpel. It is a butcher's knife. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Oh, Cody, now you and we've got to step up and start thinking of a couple of support resistance. I know I like the trampoline one.
I was about to say, I like the trampoline one. I'm trying to think of something different than the trampoline that we could use.
I'll come up with something. Let my creativity kick in here just a minute. IBM, I'm looking for bearish candidates here. Home Depot, I brought this one up yesterday. Stock pickers market, guys. You've got bullish, you've got bearish, you've got neutral, you've got opportunity. To me, if it can clear that moving average and really break that 200 zone, you've got upside here, guys. And Home Depot, we're going into the summertime, you know, projects, it does make sense seasonally. Greg, give me a read on Home Depot here.
The thing I like most about this is that nice rounding bottom there. That thing's awesome. Typically, when we see those rounding bottoms, it's turning back up there. So, yeah, I just be looking for a breakout level here. It's kind of hard to tell from where I'm looking. Maybe the 197, something like that. If you were super conservative, a break of that 200 would be good too. But I think you get some run breakout of the 197 there. So, yeah.
Look at the beauty of this next chart. Bring up Johnson and Johnson if you would. I love it when charts grab my eyes this way, just very simple. I probably look at 500 to 1,000 charts a day for a reason in my process before I go into my trading, my detailed routines and whatnot. And Johnson and Johnson grabbed my eyes instantly. You know, old support, new resistance, whether it's a scalpel, a butcher's knife, or whether it's the mattress. I mean, guys, it is right there. There's no doubt about it. Now we're coming back into where that red candle dropped it. Now it was on a dividend, Slavic. Does that affect the way you think about the chart when it was non-earnings and it was kind of a dividend move to the downside? Do you have to dig into it deeper? How do you read the chart?
No, I wouldn't. How I read this chart, well, we broke the support, long-term support, right? This 135, and with one candle on big, huge volume, and we look how many candles, how many days did it take Johnson and Johnson to recover, not fully from this drop? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles to the upside to cover one candle. That shows weakness to me, and I would.
There's definitely weakness, and the dividend I think just happens to be just there. But the reason this actually dropped was when the state started announcing that they're going to be suing Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah, there was some
multi-million-dollar lawsuits. Oklahoma started it, but other states are starting to add on that they're going to be suing Johnson and Johnson, and that's where this drop came from. Mm-hmm. And that recovery, those 5 candles, that doesn't stop the lawsuit. There's still weakness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely look for entries around this failure at 135, 136, to the downside to the 130, or even lower. 127 extension, first target, right?
Now you're just poking the bear. 127 extension every time. I like it. Nothing wrong with that. Move on to the NASDAQ if we would here, Cody. And back to the daily chart. Let's take a peek here. Tech has been volatile. Greg, you talked about Facebook getting destroyed last week and how you've been looking for shorts. And that has been a very, very good side of Facebook and many of these companies that have been under pressure. NQ contract has come from 78, 79 all the way down to 7,000 right there. I think we did dip below it on Monday. I do remember, and on the intraday we did that. But now we've backfilled a couple of candles here, guys. To me, same kind of situation, but probably more reward and more risk because of the nature of the volatility of these companies recently. Greg, how are you approaching tech?
Well, just looking at the NQ here, I've actually been playing that to the downside as well. The funny thing that I find about the NASDAQ was it was absolutely the strongest possible for a long, long time, the strongest index. Then it came up and it made that high base up there. And so you could have been excused for thinking that was going upwards. But as soon as it started to drop, it gave you all the entries in the world, as far as I'm concerned, to get in there. And it appears to me right now that it's trying to give you another entry to get in, to go short here. It's still channeling downward nicely. And those moving averages, we've had a couple of the thin moving averages cross over, and we're running into some more resistance up there as well. I think this one's just waiting for confirmation to the downside. This is your typical bear rally as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't the only thing that bothers me a little bit about it is that it's not the rip your face off rally that I usually like to see when we do have a bearish trend, but it's getting to that point. So.
Mm-hmm. I look across a lot of the major names in tech, Slavic, and they're the ones that give you the volatility during the day, amongst other things, obviously, but the Roku's of the world, the Amazons of the world, the Apple, the Facebook, those different ones. I know you trade a lot of tech stocks. What do you like about tech stocks?
It's predictability, I guess. Intraday, I mean, like Apple works with like a clock, with those gaps, and once it breaks and keeps on running. I have a whole strategy built around those day tradings. But first of all, the liquidity, no slippage. Within my tolerance, there's no slippage for day trading. So you set your stop buy somewhere and you pay a penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies the most. I just traded what was it, Tuesday, I think. I lost a bunch of money on some name that I didn't know. It had a nice setup. I paid up for a spread to get in, paid out for a spread to get out, and I raked up a bigger loss than I counted on, and that's pretty disappointing. So the Apple, Facebooks of the world, I can trade with my eyes closed. I know exactly that this is what I'm risking and this is what I'm getting. Worst case scenario as far as the losses. So that's what I like about those liquid stocks.
I'm going to give you guys about 4 or 5 different bullish stocks grabbing my eye in tech right now. And then I'm going to ask you which ones are standing out to you. Start with Roku. We already mentioned it. Roku is breaking out. Number 2 gainer on top of the top 300 NASDAQ stocks I track personally. Beautiful upside breakout. Move on to Match.com. MTCH had a deeper retracement. With the volatility last week, it probably actually stopped a few people out on that pullback. Deeper retracement, red candle Monday. But now here we are, 2 candles in a row that are taking us into some clear air in terms of Match.com and that chart. I'm looking as well, OKTA, a tech and system software company, and they are breaking back above. In fact, they've got a tail on their candle. They'd have to clear up there about 120. But man, gap out on earnings, backfill 2 days. Now we're running here as well. A lot of strength across different names, just specific names that we're seeing. ARWR, a biotech company breaking into new highs. You know, I look at markets and I think about my systems. I think about my traders. I think about the way people approach it. And then maybe one last one, which is just going to be a pure momentum play. And that's the CME group. And we already mentioned it. And guys, there is strength in the market. You know,
So
there's always strong stocks.
let me ask you a question. Do you guys think that's because of the micros that were just released?
Could be attention to it. It could also be just an increase in volume in general across exchanges, because it's not just CME. ICE went up, CME went up, the SIBO went up. A lot of the exchange names have been rallying like crazy. So it could be those micros. I think, have you traded them yet, by the way, Greg?
No, I looked at them today. I didn't see enough liquidity to suit me. I usually go the minis, not the micros, but I think they're going to get to that spot where they've got enough liquidity that they'll be a nice trading vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like weekly options. Weekly options are in comparison to the quarterlies and the monthlies, right? It's just the best thing since sliced bread. So, looking forward to getting some liquidity into those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And think about all the charts I just mentioned. And also I'm going to give you one last one because we're talking gaming. Look at Take-Two Interactive, TTWO. This is a little bit more of a reversal pattern, but now we're breaking back above the 200 period moving average with some clear error in a space that they had won the game last year. They were actually doing really well, and then they were under pressure. Slavic, out of all the stocks I just mentioned, any of them grab your eye?
Yeah, I love Match.com, the stock.
Mm-hmm.
Not the service.
I like Match and this OKTA. This was also it didn't make the scouting report because it dojied on us on Friday, but I traded OKTA the breakout. It was a beautiful trade, and I'll be interested in placing some longs here.
Beautiful momentum play. Yeah, I did like it as well. Cody, what about you? What any of the strength in the market that just stood out to you?
Match. Just the same answer that Slavic gave.
You and Slavic just swiped right on each other. I like it.
Because I mean, look at this, especially with today, with it now breaking. Like it's breaking above the level that we wanted it to break last week. So it's still a triggerable trade now with it breaking that level. Targets are pretty easy. The old high and $80. So it's a very simple entry target type stock. I like it. Yeah, it's simple.
Greg, what about
keep it simple.
I hate to do this because I'm a contrarian by nature, but I got to go with Match.com, and I think it's because I like the risk reward of it. Right, you can still get in an entry here. You've got a $3-4 move before it hits any type of resistance whatsoever, and then you've even got that higher up target of 80. That's a beautiful risk reward as far as I'm concerned. It's a nice pattern, and like Cody said and Slavic said as well, there's still an opportunity to get into it. So I really like that one. Now I am a big breakout guy as well, so that OKTA, I do like breakouts of round numbers, so I do like that 120 as well. So I'd be interested in popping into something like that as well.
I like it. We're sitting here chit-chatting about market. Let me know what markets and let me know what you guys thought about all those different companies. Here's the thing. A trade a day is something that if you're a beginner, you can absolutely achieve. You should be thinking about at least getting into your accounts. If it's paper, if you're brand new, or if you're a veteran trader in your live accounts, run your systems, run your process, position size well, but there's always trading opportunities. We call it a daily routine for a reason. Let's move on to the RTY real quick.
Tim, you just said a trade a day. I like that. A trade a day keeps the 9 to 5 away.
That's right. I like it. Yeah. A trade a day keeps the drawdowns away as well, because then you're consistently applying new things into your account. But I like yours as well, Cody. Keep that 9 to 5 away. RTY is down. You know, Matt on the podcast. By the way, if you guys did not listen to the podcast yet, it is amazing. The interview that Matt did on Monday with Mark, and now the guy's name is escaping me. I just listened to it this morning. I was not there. I was dropping my daughter off. She was just reporting to basic training, Greg, for our U.S. Army, and I'm very, very proud of that young lady. So I had the day where I was away from the podcast. David Keller on behavioral finance and on trading and markets. He's an incredible technician, and he made a comment about small caps that the markets are not going to hit new highs unless the small caps come back, you know. And small caps are a reflection of many things in the economy, but I got to tell you, they're more aggressive for a reason. Out of all the different charts, that's the ugliest, in my opinion, across indexes. Greg, what say you?
Yeah, well, honestly, the RTY, if you've been watching it since the start of the year, end of last year, it's been the weakest of the bunch the whole time. You can see that it was in consolidation when the others were taken off, i.e. the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P. So the fact that it's showing more weakness than the other ones, not a big surprise in my estimation. Again, I feel that with all the crossovers we're seeing on Cody's chart there, and again that doji type candle that we got today, I think it's just ready for that move down to 1450. So.
Slavic, what about you? Small cap companies. I know you'll trade it if it's liquid. You can get in and out and all that kind of stuff. Do you watch the Russell?
I do. Yeah, I watch all the indexes. I know that the seasonality, if I'm not mistaken, for Russell is bearish to sideways starting in June for a couple of months. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that will definitely not help the seasonality if it comes true, because last year it didn't work for Russell, I think. The seasonality in June, let me see. No, it was rallying, but over the period of time, I think at 10 years, it's more bearish in June and on till about September than the rest of the indexes. So that might not help. And the pattern, this is the classic rounded top for me with the retracement here off of the daily chart. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and here's the bottom line about all of this kind of stuff. Nobody knows the future. Slavic doesn't, Cody doesn't, Greg doesn't. But if we were looking for a rounded top and reversal type pattern and we wanted to put it in a textbook, this would not be a bad one to take a screenshot of and stick it in a little blog or a textbook, Greg. And that's a concern if you are bullish or if you are neutral on the rut, in my opinion, if it does pivot and sell. 1450 is support, very, very key level in these candles that are developing. Now, could it just take off and rally on this interest rates dropping from the Fed? Could the Fed or Trump come out and settle the trade war? Of course, that's the difficulty in the current market we're in, is that the news has been so random. I think Wall Street's having a hard time with it too. But in terms of chart pattern, that one has some risk in it, I think. All right, move on to the dollar, if you would. Let's talk about currencies and then commodities. We got about 10 minutes left, maybe only 5 minutes here. We're going to go through it pretty quick. Dollar index, if you would, Cody. Green candle's holding, you know.
So it's neutral. It was bullish when it was making this wedge on Friday. Even with the drop that we had on Friday, it stayed in that trend line. But then, of course, open Monday, it just completely violated that. A lot from the news of, Mexico tariffs and things of that sort helped drag this down. And there was if you look at some of the other currencies like your Japanese yen or your Swiss franc, some of the other reserve safety plays, those had big pops as the dollar came down. So it was kind of a flight out of the dollar into some of those other ones with the trade talks that drug it down. It is finding some support down here, but it's now lost its bullishness. It's now neutral. You could possibly say it's neutral to the bullish side because it could come back up, because from an interest rate standpoint and an economic standpoint, the
Mhm.
US dollar is still the strongest. So I'm neutral, slightly bullish right now. Slightly.
You know, we got to bring up the dollar CAD cross pair whenever I get Greg online. I've got to at least talk about the Canadian currencies as well. Canadian dollar's not been strong for a bit. USD, CAD, not CSD. Yeah, just a mistype there.
You know, I actually used this as an example on the Forex report. I talked about how to go long the dollar and short the CAD.
You know, dollar CAD cross pair here, Greg, it's been meandering up for a long time. That's hurting the Canadian currency, and the US dollar is holding. By the way, that's been true against a lot of the international currencies. What's going on with the financial system up there in Canada right now? Why has the Canadian dollar been weaker, and do you expect it to recover?
I'll be 100% honest with you. Other than the fact that we've got an election coming up in a few months, and it's starting to heat up a little bit. Our Bank of Canada kept rates the same. I found out firsthand today because I went over the border this morning because I live on a border town that my Canadian dollar was slightly better as I changed over some currency. So, yeah, financially speaking, we like our growth has been terrible, really, for a while now, and we're commodity based as well. So with the commodities getting beat up pretty good, obviously gold and silver just made that turn, but oil, when it had its recent pullback, and like I said, gold and silver getting beat up, and all the sauce beating up, our economy is very commodity based, and I think that's really what's been happening to us as of late. So.
Yeah, it's obviously going to be sensitive to the price movements in these commodities. And like we were looking at earlier with energy and oil and metals and a lot of these areas down, it does make sense to me. You know, looking at the economic calendar here, Cody, for the rest of the week, if you're trading Forex, be aware the ECB press conference is tomorrow, and news-based trades would be in play. We do have unemployment reports coming out of Canada and the U.S. Unemployment in Canada is 5.7%. Greg, US, we got 3.6%. Still pretty low numbers in general. Most people who want a job have a job. Are the elections close up there? I don't follow politics in Canada too.
October, we're getting rid of that. I won't even say it, but you're just trying to get me started, Tim. But we're getting rid of that clown that's at the helm right now. So.
Well, you know, here's the funny thing about politics. If you bring up politics in your own country, you're going to be divisive. When you bring up other people's politics, we all just kind of listen in and enjoy it because we're not tied into it. But Trudeau is
on out there in the halftime report.
Hey, Gino, we're talking Canadian politics today. Justin Trudeau. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's spending trillions of dollars so fast that I didn't think it was possible to give that much money away, especially when it's not your own. But here we are. So it's his popularity, thank God, has been waning. There's still a lot of folks that I think need to wake up and smell the coffee, but that's okay. There is an election in October, and my feeling is that Mr. Trudeau is going to go bye-bye.
You know,
Grant, that's the easy running joke is that socialism works fantastically until you run out of someone else's money.
Yeah, and that's so true, Cody. And we used to have a lot of it, and then Alberta, got the Justin Trudeau disease where they no longer produce oil, and all of a sudden now we're not as rich as we used to be. Let's put it that way. So
the only debate in my head right now is if Slavic would be more opinionated if we brought up Polish politics, but I don't know how that would go, Slavic. We'll save that for a podcast sometime, my friend, if that's all right. Crude oil, if we can. CL contract real quick. Let's take a peek at some of these different commodities. I know we already talked about them in general. Crude is down. Gino, I heard you pop in. Welcome to the halftime report. Everybody say hi, Gino. It's always good to have him popping in here when he can.
Hey,
Gino, what's going on with crude oil? I mean, it's obviously under pressure. It's bearish. It was bearish once it broke 60, but what's your read?
What was the news today? Was there a build? Is that what it was?
Yeah, they had a build.
Yeah, that was the build. So, yeah, that's about it. Basically, it's still bearish, man. I have naked puts down in the low 30s. So I want it down there. Naked puts on the crude light futures, picking up a few pennies there. And heck, the volatility's picking up. And I'm cost averaging. I'm not going all in yet. But I think I would like to see this get below 50. You know, where's the last support there? What does that chart say on your thing?
I mean, 50 is a logical support, but we also had some support, I think, down around that 49. Yeah, 50 probably is going to be the most likely, but then you had one at 42.5. Below 50, there's not much. It's got to play defense here. And you see it in the candle today. It is trying to play defense. You've got a little bit of a lower tail here today.
And, you know, you do have the dollar doing a big engulfing candle today. That usually sends it down too. I want to see where the dollar pans out. It's below the 20-day moving average. If the dollar turns bearish, I can see that putting a floor in oil, maybe slowing it down. But I don't know if you guys went over the dollar yet. A lot of support down there on your moving average. You can draw a serious trend line there. Yeah. And you know, I don't know, man. It's all about the dollar. And before that, who's that? Holmesy up there?
Yeah, that's me.
Our local Canadian. Yeah. Who do you want for the Stanley Cup? Who do you got going, Holmesy?
Well, I got to go with my buddy Keith King. Like, since my team's been out since basically January, I got to go with the Bruins. So.
Okay. Yeah. Beantown's taking it up this year, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
so,
they're killing it.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. That's tied up, just so you guys know. It's tied up.
Did you guys hear about that bet? There are two guys out of Boston that bet. They made a parlay where if 3 out of the 4 Boston sports teams won a championship, they got 40-1 odds on a bet. And they've already got the Sox, they've already got the Patriots, and they just need the Bruins to win now, and they cash that bet. I don't know what the dollar amount they put down, but
they probably put
40-1 odds. Yeah, I think they were pretty diehard Boston fans. I'm guessing they went a little more than that, but
yeah, you know what's his name? Probably put $1 million on it. What's his name? That actor?
Ben Affleck or
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, because he's at each game. Yeah, he's a big Boston fan.
I could care less about hockey when the NBA finals are on. What is wrong with you guys? Honestly,
well,
I mean, come on. Toronto and Golden State. Are you kidding?
Goldman Sachs. No, you're right.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I want to see the board of Goldman Sachs out there playing.
I saw them playing on TV, and they had GS on the score, you know, and I'm like, oh, cool. They got a stock symbol.
Yeah.
Hey Tim, here's the reason we're talking hockey instead of basketball. Every time they play a basketball game, they need 3 days off. Every time they play a hockey minute, they need 20 minutes off. That's why we're talking hockey.
Hey, hockey's a great sport. There's no doubt about it. But I really like that Toronto team, and I'm rooting for them quite a bit. Who doesn't love an underdog? I don't think they're the favorite, obviously. They are not the favorite. Goldman Sachs, Golden State, whatever it is that we're talking about there, they are bought and paid, and they've got some of the best athletes on the planet, one of the best dynasties we've probably ever seen. But they're 1-1, Greg, and you've got Toronto finally in the finals. You've got to at least.
I couldn't care less, my friend. I'm a Pistons fan, man. I couldn't care less. No, I would like to see Toronto win. Golden State's had their moment in the sun, and it would be nice to see Toronto win. The only problem is I got a lot of friends that live there, and I'd be afraid they burn the city down if they actually do win a championship. So they've forgotten what it's like since the early 90s. So
Slavic, what is the one professional sport that you would say is your favorite?
Judo.
Got to be that judo master. I like it. Do you track any of the team sports in the U.S.? Do you care about football, basketball, baseball?
Not at all. We had 2 NHL players from my hometown in Islanders, New York Islanders.
Oh, good team.
Playing back in early 2000s, 1990s, late 1990s. So that's when I bought the hat and stuff. But my old boss invited me to New Jersey. What was it? The Devils games a couple times. So I went. It was awesome. I saw Rangers, but no, not really. Not following.
Well,
that's
okay.
okay.
I'll tell you guys psychologically what I like about when you get down to the finals of any sport. I don't care if it's badminton. Is this St. Louis Blues are in the Stanley Cup right now? I saw Kings beat them when they were in town, and that was the last game they lost to the Kings, I believe. They went from being the absolute worst team in the league, in the entire roster, the absolute worst team, to being in the Stanley Cup this year. So the climb they made was unprecedented, and it's such an underdog story that they're in the Stanley Cup that I don't care if you like. It's like the what's that team? Like the Bad News Bears was the Hoosiers. They went from the very worst to be in this year, and so
you know
what
why
kind of passion and determination would take, say, you guys, we're in the very bottom. Let's climb up through 80 teams and be at the top. What kind of determination does it take? What clicked? What's in those? So these guys want it. And so when they're playing and they're fighting, it's really fighting. They don't call fouls very easily in hockey. So when I'm watching this, guys, you never see more passion in your life on these guys fighting for the win. So I'm all for the Blues. I love Beantown. I love Boston. They've won enough. I want to see the Blues. They really want it.
Do you know why the Blues? Do you know why the Blues made that historic comeback?
I have no idea.
It's because they have 75% of the team is Canadian. That's why.
Oh, there you
We know hockey.
Jimbo likes Rex Kwon Do. Is that from Napoleon Dynamite?
I don't know, but Uncle Rico is. I would love to see a meme of that there, Cody.
So someday, guys, all the sports teams will have their own stock symbol, and we'll be talking about them.
Sure. All right, guys, we have said enough here. And I mean, we could sit and chit chat. I enjoy chatting with you guys all day long, but I do want to wrap our show just because we do this every day, and we'll be back here tomorrow as well. A couple of things. Simplest thing that we have. There's nothing more important in tackle trading right now than our step system webinar. And Cody, if you'll drop the link in the chat, we are releasing that today. And I got to tell you, I am so excited simply to see Noah's presentation tonight. The speaker, Noah Davidson. Gino, did you get a chance to look behind the scenes there and take a peek at that?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. You guys will love this presentation. There's a lot of humor to it. There's a new chart pattern we're going to show you. We were talking about it one time. We were looking at charts and, triangles, trends, cup and handle, all these head and shoulders, all these different patterns. And I go, you know what that looks like to me? That looks like I'm not even going to tell you, a certain animal, mythical creature. And so he based his whole webinar on it. So let me give you a heads up. If you thought the Game of Thrones was good until the last show, you'll love this presentation. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It's awesome, dude.
It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of people there. By the way, our daily email today from Coach Christian, I really enjoyed it. He's like, hey guys, let's break the internet. Our Zoom rooms have a capacity on it and we are sold out, Greg. We'll see if everybody shows up. That will be what will be the limited capacity. But guys, make sure if you have registered for the webinar, great, welcome. And make sure you get in there early so that we don't have to limit seating. And we will be open, I believe, at 8:15 Eastern, 15 minutes before we go. We are live at 8:30 tonight. If you have any issues getting in, getting logged on, team@tackletrading.com. I know Coach Mark is going to be handling customer service and all that kind of stuff. I'm fired up. It's really exciting when we see one of these products come to this point in the game here. Greg, thank you for being here, and go watch the basketball game, young man. All right, Slavic, awesome. And I'm going to have to check out was it judo you said?
No, Rex Kwon.
Yeah. We have.
Where do you watch competitive judo?
There's a cup starting, I think next week, somewhere in the world. Check my Facebook. I always share from my friends, whoever's going, what's going on. Because one of my friends just made to the third spot in European Jiu-Jitsu. His name is Andrzej Borowiec, my longtime buddy. He just made it to the third place. So yeah, I know them all. That's why I follow it.
Fun, awesome stuff, man.
Yeah.
Big fan.
My Wi-Fi is skipping. We're done. All right. I'm a fan of anybody who does well in any sport. So I would check that out, Slavic. I'll find it on your Facebook page. All right, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow in the halftime report.
Have a good one.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good day.